Rick, how you doing, man?
Hey Keith, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing good, man. Just rolling through this pandemic, man, accepting it and moving forward. What about you?
Oh, same here. I'm really liking that salt and pepper thing on your chin.
Thanks, man. I let the beard kind of grow back, and the gray just kind of centralizes itself right here on the chin, as you noticed. And uh, I'm accepting it, man. We did a podcast on aging, and so I'm just gonna keep rolling with it. You got some snow there in
That's the
Sedona, man.
plan.
How much snow is there?
But I think we got between 8 and 10 inches. I'm snowed in. I can't get out. My driveway's packed. We have like one snowplow for the county.
Right,
No, there's
right.
more than that, but it's pretty rough right now.
Well, man, I know you're just making the best of it, and we definitely need the moisture for the area. And
Yes,
so
yes.
that part is welcome. So I thought we'd do a podcast today on what it means to be human, and what our responsibility as a human being. I was watching this Netflix documentary uh, that Debbie Allen did called Hot Chocolate Nutcracker on Netflix, and it's one in which she makes dance available to all kids. And we live in a country to where there is some kind of disparity, whether it's economics or health disparity, and just opportunities, depending on where you are in our country and in the world. And so she makes it available. And the Hot Chocolate Nutcracker is one of her big fundraisers. So if you get a chance to watch something on Netflix, this would be a show that I would recommend. So one of the dancers or choreographers on the show, on this particular documentary, is Savion Glover, who happens to be a renowned dancer and tap in the mold of a Gregory Hines. I mean, he's just so talented. And
Wow.
so they asked him about his contribution and what he does for the young artist. And he said that because he teaches a tap performance that actually is one of the highlights of the actual performance. And in it, he just had a very, very important quote that he said, and I just want to read it when they asked him about it. And he basically said that, what I'm doing here is I'm just being available as a human being. It's an exchange that allows me to learn from them, and hopefully they learn from me. And I just thought it was just so beautiful, that that's what he's doing as a human being, not making enemies of other people, not judging people, but just being available. And I like to say, just holding space for people to, no matter where they are. So I like to put that question to you during this podcast. What have you made your responsibility as a human being, and how has that changed over the years as you've developed and committed yourself to your practice?
Wow, what a big bite. That's a lot, Keith. I'm not sure I'm really where I want to be yet. I keep working hard on it. It's just like anything else. You need to practice and to be mindful of what it is that holds you back and what makes you less of who you want to be. And in my case, I think I'm trying very hard to be gentle, to be humble, and to be frugal. And by frugality, I mean keeping a small footprint, trying not to use more than I need to get along in my life. I think those three things are important to me in terms of how I appear to other people. And that way, if I can master those or at least become comfortable with them and they become part of who I am, then I think I can offer just that holding space that you mentioned in a much more effective way. I think one of the things that's hardest for us as humans is to not have an agenda with respect to other people. And an agenda can mean anything from getting something from somebody, obviously, but it can also mean something like trying to do whatever is required so that you're liked. And I think that's a pitfall. Whenever we start down that road of doing things, making choices for other people, about other people, in order to get them to like us, I think we're on the wrong track. And I just am very careful about monitoring when I do that. I still do that, and I don't like myself when I do it. And it's important, I think, to check in and find out, why is that, Rick? What is it that's so important about other people liking you as opposed to you staying on the path of this gentleness, of this small footprint of being humble and understanding life in the way that you're studying it before you die. How about you?
Right.
What are you thinking of?
You know, something you said before I get to what I'm thinking and what it means to me is there's something you said about the frugality and the small footprint. Man, that really struck with me. You know, you always give me some gems, and I'll be taking that with me. And I think about it in terms of how I take, you know, or
Ah,
how
yeah.
how I contribute. And when I think about taking, I mean something being in it for me that I get to get from you, you know. So there's some kind of leverage or some kind of game that I'm playing, and I may not even be aware there's a con going on, me conning you, you know, unconsciously or whatnot, and perhaps that's me trying to get you to think the way I do, adopt my ideology, whatever it is. And I'm also, with respect to frugality, is we did a podcast about how not to be a troublemaker, and it's kind of a play on the title in which you think that we're going to talk about how other people show up as troublemakers in your life, but we talk about how we can be troublemakers by judging these other people. And so I think when I think about the frugality, I'm thinking about uh, like being frugal and self-monitoring the troublemaking behavior that I bring to interactions with other human beings. I want to be really frugal with that and really be mindful of the ego and keep that tamped down. What it means for me in terms of my responsibility as a human being that I've learned to take very seriously is, I think something you said before was in a podcast before, is a responsibility first to my health. It's super important because if I, and you pointed this out to me, that I need to have, you know, optimal health so that I can do the work that I want to do and make the contribution that I want to make in the world. So that's when I check that off my list. Then next up is being frugal and getting out of the way. My job every day is to wake up and get out of the way so the goodness, kindness, presence, and consciousness can flow through me. And
Yeah,
I find
and that's
myself,
who you actually. That's who you actually are. And when you're saying get out of the way, what you're saying is
yes,
you get out of your own way, right?
yes, get out of my own way, get out of my own way so that can flow through,
There you
so
go.
I can flow through, so consciousness can flow through me. And so I make that my business, and that's why my practice is so important in the morning, so that I don't go down burning down relationships and lobbing grenades at people, and you know, judging them with daggers and whatnot. I really, you know, do my reading, do my podcasting, our podcast, or Eckhart Tolle or Wayne Dyer, Tara Brock, those folks, so that I can stay free of those things. And then once I do that and monitor it throughout the day, I can hold space, you know, for other people. And as Seven Glover said, he just wanted to, you know, connect with people and in humanity. And my job is to connect with the humanity with other people, my humanity with theirs. And so that's what I think my responsibility as a human being. And from there, we can create something magical, something that is a win-win for all of us and a win-win for, you know, the planet. And that's really what I'm trying to do. And you know, it's just little old me here in little Arizona doing that in this big wide world. But uh, that small ripple, you know, in the ocean that I represent still has a profound effect, you know. And I know the people that have made that commitment to how they start their day, how they live their life by being frugal with what, by not putting out negativity into the world, but contributing something that's positive and healthy into the world. For those people that have done that for me and held that space for me, man, when I was running around here led by ego, I'm grateful for their ripple, you know, because it had a profound effect on me. So I think that's what it means for me. And I take my responsibility very seriously. And I've had an opportunity to really to really demonstrate how serious I am about it over the last year with the pandemic and the social justice conversation and with the politics that have gone on in our own country. I had an opportunity to check myself along the way. I didn't always pass. I didn't always pass,
Yeah, join the
but
club.
yeah, but I was mindful, and more times than not, I was on the right side of things.
Well, Keith, I think one of the things I've noticed in your development since you started down the self-examination path and sort of looking inward instead of looking outward is that your life is not only, I think, happier, but it seems to me it's a lot simpler. It's not, less complicated, and I think that's something that maybe has helped you. Would you agree with that?
100%, Rick. My life is yeah, I'm happier. I have a lot more joy. I'm peaceful, and you have been the number one example in my life of this when you sold your home, packed up, and moved to Sedona. I was like, I supported the move because I want you to be happy, but I was like, what is he doing? And I just see how you have everything that you need and want in life. You have, and
Yeah.
you don't take any more than what you need. And every time I see you, man, you're happy to see me. And we just have these connections and these moments that we spend together that are free of any kind of distraction, obstruction, ego, and we're able to really connect, as human beings. And it's just a beautiful thing. And I think that's by we've learned to make it very simple.
Yeah, and you know what I was going to say, Keith, I think part of what happens for both of us is once you're on this kind of path where you're focusing less on yourself, more on others and contribution, and mainly not judging and just being mindful and grateful, though those two things go hand in hand. What happens is there's a contentment that comes about. There's an inner calm that comes about. There's a joy in just having a life to live. And my feeling is that after chasing the almighty buck for many, many years, that the real contentment, the idea of the abstract concept of contentment is actually what wealth is, right?
Hmm.
If you were to take the money out of it and just call contentment something like a synonym, to me, it would be wealth. Contentment is wealth. And so
Yes.
one of the ways to I think, avoid this constant human characteristic of acquisitiveness that we all are masters at. We run up our credit cards. It doesn't have to be Christmas. If we have a feeling of accomplishment, we treat ourselves. If we feel like we've been deprived, we treat ourselves and buy something expensive or not so expensive. But the acquisitiveness, the material things in life don't make you happy. They really don't. They're a lot of fun maybe, and they're short-lived, perhaps, whatever fun there is. But the real inner depth comes from a sense that you are happy with what you have without more. And so I guess part of the way that I got to that point was just by choosing what I have. I really focusing on, I love my hat. I love my
Right.
glasses. These are great glasses, man. I really love them. And even though I look goofy to most of the viewers because I've got this red blotchy face, it's because I'm under some medication. I'm taking some medication for sun damage on my face, and it just basically rips off your skin. So I look a little odd. But I'm very grateful that I have not only the medication, but even looking ugly, it's okay. It's okay. I choose this. It's a healthy way to be, and I'm fine with it. It's another aspect of what we always talk about, which is the practice, getting in a groove where you're accepting, you're grateful for what you have, you're content. You're also looking at life in a way where you can help others. There's a sense of mission about it. And getting back to our topic today, that mission doesn't have to be anything more than just being a fellow human being who's
Right.
open open
Yes.
to hearing what another person has to say. And I learn so much more, than I do if I'm by myself and thinking of all the things I don't have, and thinking about all the wrongs that have been done to me, and thinking about, all of that inbred nonsense that puts you on this revolving treadmill of depression and anxiety. I think people experience. If you get out of yourself and sit with another person and just listen, I think that's enormously instructive.
Yeah, Rick, I think you hit the nail on the head too with just, being available, as you've echoed what Saban Glover's uh, quote was from the documentary, is just being available to a human being. And, I had a call this week with a colleague, um, and they were giving me some feedback on a meeting that we had. And it felt, I felt my ego pull, to read the request to meet, and then start to try to figure out, like, okay, how am I going to address this concern that's been brought up? And fortunately, I listened to the practice that morning, and the practice just kind of talked about, don't go in knowing anything with something to say or how to solve
Yeah,
this
yeah,
problem. I mean, there's some problems that's necessary for, like, hey, listen, we got to feed 100 people. How are we going to go about, uh, preparing the land to put down the seeds and to reap a harvest? Got it. Like, that's practical. How I'm going to get from A to B and stuff like that, practical. But for something like they were asking me to do about something that was concerned to them, that didn't land on them well, doing a meeting with some other people. And as one of the people who leads these meetings, they wanted to just share, and we want to walk through it together. So that morning, fortunately, again, I just woke up, just did my practice, and I just made myself, during the conversation, available to what they had to say, to really listen, to not be thinking about what I'm going to say, and when they pause or break or interrupt them. I didn't do any of that, man. And I left the conversation feeling like, and they told me that they felt heard. And we talked about how we're going to address it moving forward. And then I asked them for some accountability. Like, this is the spirit in which we want the meetings to be conducted in. And we want people to be left feeling this way because we have higher goals. And we're trying to create a culture in a community. And so if you find that during the course of the meeting that I am not making sure that we stay on the path, then to let me know, and after the meeting, if you want to give me a debrief and tell me how we did, if we stayed on the path, uh, let's do that too. And so it was just a really, to your point, as a human being, my contribution in that relationship in that moment was to be open. And so I think a lot of people think that, at least I used to too, is that when I talk about what my responsibility as a human being, I think about it in terms of, I used to think about it in terms of, oh, what is my big life mission? Okay, let's make it, Gandhi like level. Let's make it like the person who is a teacher who's dedicating their lives to students, over a 40-year career, or a physician or whatever. And you know what my responsibility is, and perhaps all of ours is, in each connection, be loving, be open, be kind, be available. Not in this big thing, that's, hugely aspirational. Keep it simple, as you said. With this relationship that I'm in right now, looking across at the person who's at the grocery store and the clerk, coming home with your kids, before you jump on them for what's not been done, or homework, or clothes everywhere, or whatever, take 5 minutes before you get to that, because that will always be there, and connect. What was special about your day? What's grateful? I'm available. I'm here for you, for your significant other. All those things are how we do it. You meet somebody who is, their behavior is hostile, it's not kind, then you just hold space for them to express themselves through unconscious behavior. But in that moment, in each and every moment, that being available, holding that space, I
Well,
think that's our responsibility.
that's beautifully said. And when you said it's a simple thing or it's a small thing to have the eye contact and to be open-minded and to have no preconceived ideas about what you're receiving, those are enormously difficult, but they're also enormously important, because when you string together a lifetime of behaving that way, the benefits that we get are indescribably huge. They're just enormous. Think of the people that you love in your life that you've really, really enjoyed being with, are usually people that aren't necessarily the brightest people. I mean, they're not your professors, but there are people who teach you about life that have nothing to do with classroom excellence or book learning or any of the kind. That's important, obviously, as well. But the lessons that you learn as a human being have a lot to do with how open-minded you are and how receptive you are to hearing another person's experience. So holding space is a beautiful thing, Keith. And I think that simplicity that comes from accepting other people and not judging takes us a very long way toward where we all want to go, which is that sense of inner peace, of not being disturbed, of living a simple, loving life, which is really the point of all this, right? The whole idea is I think if we have fewer things and we have fewer wants, it becomes easier to live that kind of life. But what gets in the way is the scorekeeping. It's whether there's a colleague who's getting more credit, there's you go down the whole list of things that get in the way. But it's important for us to realize that the simple life, when we're talking about economy, prudence, living within our means, and also just enjoying what we have, you'll find is plenty rewarding. And if we're open-minded and positive thinking, not expecting crap to happen, just be open and be positive about what is likely to come, I think that we'll have more self-love. And the more self-love, the more we have to give to other people and to open our hearts to others.
I totally agree, Rick. Man, thank you so much, Rick, for a great show. I appreciate it. I love you, man. And
you're the man, buddy. You just as soon as we click off, I go back to being a devil. I'm a horrible human being, but for these few minutes, I feel like I'm
really best show,
dude.
That's awesome.
I love you, bro.
I love you too, Rick. Thank you.
Okay, adios.
Adios.